We're in drainage.
I'd like to call the order, the Ascension drainage. This is the July the 11th. Let it be known, Ms. Secretary, that Mr. Turner is out. Anyone else? We good? I think it's Mr. Turner's the only one absent.
Oh, this is drainage.
That's the only one.
That's it.
Mr. Kluas going to give the invocation followed by the pledge.
Everyone please stand. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. Lord, we ask that you look upon the folks of Ascension Parish and all the Gulf South region as we come into our hurricane season, and let's take care of everyone. Lord, we ask that you look toward those in law enforcement and those in the military, all those that serve in the fire, also to the better good of the community and serve in the protection. With special intentions, Lord, we ask that you look over the Bell family for the passing of Mr. Pat Bell, one of our former colleagues and a member of several boards and a friend of the community. We ask that you take care of Miss Sheely and the boys and the whole family and see them through all this. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in with the secretary. We'll move on to acceptance of the minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Todd, second by Mr. Johnny. And it's approved. Chairman's report, we have none tonight. We'll move on to the drainage report. Mr. Rue.
Grand
Time,
entrance. Whew, I don't have a formal report to give to not hand out, but I'll be glad to answer any some questions.
Mr. Sadler.
I don't have any questions, Mr. Rue.
Mr. Cloy.
Yeah, I'd like a short update on Laurie's levy.
I'll have Mr. Jake Lambert come up and give that, please.
I think we've made a few little small leaps forward.
Yes, sir. My name is Jake Lambert. I'm an engineer with Glenn Shaheen and Associates, working on the Laurel Ridge Levee Extension project. This month, we've received some comments from the Corps of Engineers. We're working right now to address those additional comments and get a response back to them. We're expecting to get them back by the end of the week, back to the Corps. On the state side, we've been dealing with our project manager over at the Office of Coastal Management, and he is expecting to write his favorable recommendation for our needs and alternatives justification. We're expecting to get that this week or next from him. In addition to that, we've got some surveying work going on out there, doing some boundary survey work so we can begin developing the right-of-way maps, which once that's complete and once we get a permit, we'll use those for property acquisitions. Lastly, one other thing we're working on is the wetland mitigation plan. We've got several different alternatives we're investigating, and we're trying to get some information in front of the Corps in the next month or so with that, so we can have all of our wetland mitigation taken care of in the near future.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rue, I know we've been working with a tentative memorandum of agreement, with Pontchartrain Levee District, and once we see final figures, if we can get that a little bit more solid, or maybe we got that, and I'm not sure.
No, not yet. And
Okay.
but I talked to a member of the commission today about that, and we're going to be calling a meeting between us and PLD to get the final figures together and final, I guess, the language together for that memorandum, and it should be shortly.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bill.
Okay. Mr. Rue, got a couple of things. One, update on the BFEs. Can you,
I tell you what, I'm gonna have, Mr. Autry, I'm gonna have HNTB respond a little bit to that. We just about finished with the survey that the parish is responsible for. We're behind on that. It's our fault. And, but we should have that in this week. But I think, Mr. Autry can answer some more questions.
thank you.
Good evening. My name is Autry Sen. I'm with HNTB Corporation. I'm the project manager on the levy certification and accreditation project for Ascension Parish. Where we are today is we're setting up our models. We have two models that are going on, one for the Marvin Bro drainage basin and the other for Bay Conway. We extent of the model goes beyond L44 all the way to the airport. Where we are right now is we're waiting on some of the survey information to be completed for incorporation in the model. So we expect that the results and the output somewhere end of fall.
So when are we expecting the survey to be complete, Bill?
Our people should be finished with it this week.
Okay, so
And,
all the survey, and they can input that into the model? at the
That
end of
is
the-
correct.
Panama, yes.
Yes, we will do a quality review of the surveys, making sure that the surveys are all good before we incorporate that in the model.
Now, it's, you know, as a novice looking at the FEMA maps, but, you know, I see more than one area there that's not determined. So presumably you've looked at the entire map of Ascension and all those areas that the BFE has not been determined, we'll correct that. Is that correct?
Right now, we're looking at just the Panama Conway Basin. We're gonna take it basin by basin. The
There's
certification.
an area in the Panama or Conway really, that's north of Pelican Point that also has you know, not determined.
But again, we're looking at the whole basin.
Okay,
From
so
one
that'll
end to the
cover
other.
all
Everything
that.
that drains into Conway, Panama
Okay.
will be looked at. And according to the, as far as the certification process, HNTB is looking at the other basin, which is within the Marvin Bro pump station.
Right.
And that's a separate,
Separate.
be doing similar type stuff, but it'd be in that basin. So again, we working on one at a time.
Okay. Thank
Any
you,
other
Audrey.
questions?
Bill, on the, can you give me a quick update on the Bullock Buckhead?
I think we're working with the
see.
attorney. Yeah, we're working with the attorney right now to, I think they're sending language back and forth to the contractor for us, guarantee on it, the warranty on the bulkhead, and I think it's been accomplished. Where are we out of that, Mike?
Good evening. The contractor's attorney sent us back some language, or basically approval of the language, just notifying the client that that was a typical warranty. So I've sent that to Cody and waiting to get the exhibit and the contract finalized, and I think we'd be good to go. So, finally.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Bill, one other thing. You know, I had sent you a request about some public meetings in the Panama Conway Basin. Have you given any thought to that? Had a chance to think about that?
Well, I tell you what, I really would like to do, I'd like to get some of this information to, at least the information on the survey to HNTB and get that model ran back. Now, we don't have everything on the BFEs, but if they run the model, at least I can get the profile of Conway, Panama to indicate the severity of the silt buildup. And that would give us a little bit of a chance to look at it and say, what kind of project we're looking at for permitting, if it's just a silt removal at certain locations, if it's a massive silt removal throughout the whole basin. It gives a little bit of understanding exactly the scope of the permitting process. If it's just a little bit, I can say, you know, we'll put in for a permit in maybe 6 to 8 months. If it's a massive silt removal, then you're looking at a good bit longer to get the permit for it.
Well,
So
I
I
was
wanted
hoping
to
to
try to
have-
get some of that information in.
I was hoping to have that first meeting in October, so.
That should be good.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be okay.
And you know, I talked to Autry a little bit about this, but, you know, if it's possible, could get a map showing the basin itself, the geographic, you know, geographically what that encompasses so that we can get the list of people that are affected in that basin. Do you see that as a problem?
I don't see a problem. Again, I'll work with HNTB on putting together a little program, a little presentation that we can show to at several locations
Okay.
to the people.
Okay.
And something that they can understand and give us a little bit more of a schedule of what can happen in the future.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Back up, Mr. Cloy.
Yeah, Bill, real quick, can we get an update on Marvinboro Pump Station, pump number 7,
I tell you what, I'm gonna let
and the improvements?
Mr. Picard handle that.
Okay.
Henry Picard, Berkline Peter. Wharton Smith is under contract, and we have received the first set of submittals from them regarding the pump, the gear, and the engine. The one thing we are waiting to give them on their notice to proceed is the actual projected dates for delivery, so that we basically can time the delivery with their construction activities, and we don't just sit there burning up a clock for undelivered equipment. But we do have the submittals. It was a 600-page package, and Danny and his group are reviewing that right now.
And if, I don't remember, do we have the same type pump going in?
They have submitted Patterson pumps,
Patterson, yeah.
and basically the same gear, and I've got to double check on the engine, whether it's tier 2 or tier 4, but we're trying to go with the tier 2, which is what got installed the first time.
Yeah, because I think that would help. The
We do
delivery
have a-
time and all the engineering's been done and tests and all.
But we do have a deadline. We've got to have it in place by the end of the year, and that's the key. Can they make that end of the year deadline?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bill, one quick question for you. Something we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks, and I'm sure Alan's aware of it. This is one place on the end of Stringer Bridge Road there, next to New River, where somebody improved their land back behind T-Pole Lane. And I guess what I'm getting is, we've worked for about a couple of years to try to help that situation back there by putting the pumps in at Buxton, and try to pull that away. And, is all that movement of land, does anybody need permits for that or what? I guess that's the question, because
That's where you and I talked a little bit about it.
Yeah.
The problem is the parish council usually or planning development put in regulations as an ordinance that you shall not do this or you shall not do that. Problem is, they don't give us any police powers behind that, for the most part. You get into the 3-foot rule and everything, basically you gotta wait until they start building something, then you hold back on a permit. But you really don't have much ability to go to the person and say, if you don't do this, or if you keep doing this, we're gonna fine you within 30 days, or whatever. You don't have any kind of penalties that you can, put on them to make them back off of it. So, basically, a lot of people just say, look, this is my property, I can build up as long as I'm not hurting anybody. And so we pretty much got to wait until they're ready to put something on it and hold back on a permit.
yeah, and I'm a firm believer in land rights, okay? And I know this was a simple subdivision that went through easy, not in true words of a subdivision, somebody's building a subdivision, but dividing of a large piece of land, but they did a very large amount of movement of dirt on it and building up, and we don't have anything, and maybe you can work with our planning and zoning director to look at some of that stuff, but the fact is that we do know that anytime somebody builds up from where water used to flow and it don't flow anymore, then somebody's got some more water, and it's got a real potential problem for the people down People Lane, because we got one house at the end was elevated, another house is on a slab, and it's been sandbagged multiple times in the last couple of years, and for some of the others, it's more or less nuisance, but it's not getting their house, but we're possibly looking at some water. I'd just like to continue looking at that.
Again, you fill in a floodplain too, in a lot of cases, but the family partition is another sore subject, because you can get a family partition in and you get a certain amount of lots coming in, they build it up, put houses down, and you don't have to meet the requirements of a subdivision for detention or anything like this.
I'm gonna go ahead
another problem.
and make it clear that this is not a family petition, that it was a simple subdivision.
Or simple subdivision, the same
Yes,
thing.
and, you know, you might want to pull that plat, you and planning and zoning director, because these are good people that bought the land, and they got good intentions, and just like for family, but got neighbors around that, you know, truly worried about it, and you know, have seen the runoff of the water from there. So I'd appreciate continue to take a look at that and see where we stand on that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Finished.
That's it.
Aaron?
Yes, sir. Muddy Creek, where do we stand on that project?
Everything getting ready to get started, really. The only problem is trying to schedule it. With the number of bridges that went out over the last, had to be closed over the last 2 weeks. We have our major construction crews doing that. We're still trying to finish up on Astro land. So, and we had a number of problems in. We got to go back to Donsville. Got a problem with that, with a crossing over there. We had to pull off of that big box cover. We got to go back over there and put a box cover in. We have 2 main crews that does that kind of stuff, and both of them are so tied up right now. We're just trying to schedule it. Other than that, it's ready to go.
Okay, great. And I want to thank you. Cotton Bayou got cut, and I'm very appreciative of that. Had a lot of people
Finally,
calling
yes.
me about that. It looks good, and I've
Yeah.
had a lot of good calls on it, so thank you.
We had some problems with it in the past, but right away, finally with this new person buying it and coming in there, we're able to get the right of way.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Terry?
Guess what I need to know about? Anybody want to guess? The permit on Frog Bayou Locks, where are we on that?
They already, well, they went through the state for us, the permit for us, the scenic rivers. They got everything done with that. They're still with the Corps. And the last that we talked to everything, we have our man at the Corps checking on it. And it actually, I tell you what's going to happen. We getting ready to call a meeting with the Corps like we do periodically. And we're trying to set up something in the next few weeks, probably first of next month or the end of this month. And we're going to get a resolution, I hope, to a lot of these questions on our permits at that time, if we don't get it before. But that's one of the things that we're going to bring up is the permits, especially at the long-standing permits that's been in place for a while. And again, this is between certain members of the council, whoever wants to attend, and the parish president and I.
I'd love to be included.
We'll give the notice out, and we'll set the dates. It's being set at this time, the dates.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Bill.
Yeah, Bill, I got a couple of things. Property owned by NSC as far as drainage, talking about family partitions like Randy. I think he had for sale signs before he even went to the planning commission and got a family partition on that little Blaylock piece of property. You know which one I'm talking
Yes,
about.
sir.
And that water comes up from the backside pretty heavy, and nothing has been done with the drainage, and now he's selling lots to individuals that, off of a family partition. It's a bad situation. I think you were supposed to kind of look into it, because I have some complaints up front from the neighbors that's already getting water. If they're gonna build up behind them, they're not sure where that water's gonna flow, because it comes up from the swamp. in the
It
back.
comes up from the swamp, and it comes up actually from Bayou Northeast itself.
Correct.
It backs up in high water situations. Of course, that's in our pumping system, and we're, at times we're keeping the water down as much as possible, but it still builds up and it backs up. So it is coming up through there. The buildup of the land is taking away storage from that channel. We really, truthfully, have not been able to determine exactly how much storage is being taken up and how much of a problem it's causing other people by removing that storage. We're still looking at that. Because we want some definite data. We just can't go over there and say, you're hurting somebody by doing this. We need some data behind it, and we're looking at it.
I didn't see anything yet, but it's not so much as drainage as utilities. He was supposed to run a water main through that property, 8-inch main, I believe it was, Benny? Are you familiar with that water main? And I was wondering if we're gonna enforce that, or it's a family partition, but that was all in the stipulation of the family partition. He had to provide enough water.
Yeah, he's trying, last time I talked to him, he's trying to work something out with it, but he doesn't necessarily agree with what's there. So I'm not sure where he's at when I left him, but basically my conversation with him was that, he was gonna have to run that main and provide the hydrants, based on the distance required by the ordinance.
That was, okay. Next thing I have, after we finish with Panama and Conway cleaning and dredging, right now we have no way to get any boats in that particular, them streams of canal. We used to have a boat launch back there that's been barricaded off back of Sorrento. We we're planning on maybe finding a location that we can actually have a boat launch. You know, it's too, once they've dredged, that's too, a lot of people fish that area, and right now there's no way to access them to canals.
This would be something I have to get with the parish president
Yeah.
on. We'll get with some sites. And
I didn't
we'll
know if you
look
had
at it.
anything. Somebody
We-
had rumored to me that y'all had a couple of sites y'all were
We
looking
have
at.
not,
Okay.
but it's something that we definitely get together on and talk about.
Okay.
So-
I've had a good bit of people asking. One last thing, this is actually in Mr. John's district, but I maybe questioned Mr. Darrell Primo on it. That subdivision on Church Point Road, I think the city annexed it in right there on right by the canal, by United States Canal. On that east side of it, Darrell told me they were supposed to dig a ditch on their side of the property, on that whole east side, and I don't see that happening, and they're already building. He said that was part of what the drainage department told them they had to do. And I'm more concerned with the residents on the east side right there. But I don't see any ditch. Actually, I see a swell that's just dumping onto that neighbor. And Darrell told me himself that they were supposed to dig a ditch on that whole east side.
Well, if Darrell tell you that, he's probably going from the drainage study that was
Right.
done by the development. I'll be honest, I don't know that much about it. I'll get with him tomorrow
Just
and I'll
check on
look
it
at
for
it
me, yeah, if you
and
don't mind.
talk to
Mr.
you
John,
about it.
yeah.
Yeah. I will talk some more about it since I get a little bit more familiar with it.
Appreciate it, Bill. That's all I have.
Mr. Johnny?
Thank you, Todd. I was getting ready to cover that when you brought it up. No, a couple of real quick things, Bill, aside from that issue on Bayou Narcisse with that subdivision. The Bayou Francois lateral one, talking about on the other side of Roddy Road.
The other side, again,
And I know you partially answered it when you said you're still
Exactly.
working
I'm
on
after-
master land and what have you.
Right. I have to refer back to the same answer I gave Mr. Lawler on Muddy Creek. We're trying to free up some of our major construction crews, the two that we have that's basically doing that kind of stuff, and then they'll be scheduled. That's going to be a hard job. And again, like we talked before, we're looking at primarily going in and doing phase one is from Prepare Road to the Walk Bridge. And then once we complete that, we got a pipeline issue on the backside, so we got to resolve those issues and put our heads together, maybe with the city, and see what else can be done.
But I still have a couple of people calling me about,
All right.
saying when they're gonna be knocking on my door, because I told them that was the next step. Y'all would be-
It was until these
Public-
emergencies, came up, and when the road shut down, then that counts as an emergency where we have to put the crews on it, and then everything else has got to wait.
Yeah, and the other
much.
small project we talked about was a drainage, kind of a drainage ditch, starts at, say, Kenny Times, runs back by Sam Gotro. And
We
goes
got
to,
to,
I think, Black
we got to
Bayou.
work on them. We got right-of-way permission, I think about a week or so ago, and that's being scheduled to work on. So, but that work order has been made, and we already have contacted people for right-of-way.
Good, thank you, Bill. That's all.
Mr. Benny?
Let's start off with Bird Allen there, Bill. Where are we at on that?
Okay, which one? On the Bird Island itself, we got the permit in, it's ready to go too. The next step, and we're preparing the documents right now for bids for the bridges and for the bulkhead at Mr. Swallow's place, property. Got two bulkheads going in there, one to protect the pond, one to protect the treatment area. So those documents are being prepared right now. As soon as those are finished, we go out for bids, and what we want to do is go in there at the same time as they're reconstructing the bridge, because when they pull the old bridges out, we're gonna have to dig it out, and then they go back with the new ones. And so it's gonna all be part of the contract. So I can tell you probably, again, that's one of those situations where we got limited manpower to put on it, and we got a lot of big projects coming up. In fact, got a meeting scheduled with President Matassa about increasing our major drainage crews to do that kind of work and give me a little bit more manpower. But that's where we stand. There's a scheduling issue on that too.
Right. So, I know we're in the process of doing some work in Lazy Oaks. What kind of time frame are we looking at on that? I was talking to Alan earlier, we got the cross, culverts replaced.
Yep, and Alan, how much time we got? Where we at on that project?
The cross covers have been put in already, and we're going to be working toward a pipeline next. We're getting ready for it. We still have to dig up toward Courtney. We're going to be doing some work in there, and we got some. That's all goes through Lazy Oaks. I'm just letting you know it's. Then Lee, it's got a little part of it we're working on. we're gonna be finishing up them in about another week or so, and then we're gonna be starting the part that we wanted across the pipeline.
So all that should help the folks off of, Courtney and, Lee.
Right.
All that off of 44, those few roads up in there that have that.
Yes.
Understand there was, I haven't received a complaint in a while, but I was told by somebody else back off of 929 off of name of that Bradbury Trace off of 929 there. Back into that had some flooding a while back. Were y'all aware of any of that?
I hadn't heard anything about that.
Yeah, I remember, be honest with you, I remember seeing the email. I think it might have been from you or from the person that was putting a request in for some assistance. I don't know the status of it. We were sent for a work order, and I'll have to check the status of it, though, and respond back to you.
Last but not least, West Creek, do we have a status on the expropriation going forward to get that swell ditch done?
It's still an expropriation, yeah. Yeah, and that usually takes a while.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Todd, real quick.
Yeah, one question for, I think that's our planning and zoning director, if he can come up. On this family partition, I thought we did a little bit more critiquing with it, and after we come out of that last ordinance, that they could not sell that property for 3 years once they turn it into a family partition. Am I wrong about that?
That's correct, yeah, according to my understanding. Once they go with a family partition, they have to keep it within the family for 3 years. After that period, they can sell it.
So, okay, the one that I'm speaking of on Bayou 96 Road just become a family partition.
Right.
And he's got for sale signs, selling lots right now on that piece of property.
Okay, we're gonna have to look at that. If I can get the address from you a little later, we'll get on that one.
And I wasn't sure if I thought that's what came out of when we tightened it up, the family partition up a little bit. It was that they had a 3-year period. They could not sell it once they divided into their children.
We've actually had a couple of cases come before us very recently, and we've denied it because they had owned it in less than 3 years. So that's the case as well.
Yeah.
I'll have to
If you
get
could
back to
look
you on
up-
that because I may be a little confused on it myself, and I'll have to look at the ordinance. Because I know if they've just recently purchased the property, they can't go in and ask for a family partition, right? But after the family partition occurs, I'm not sure about that 3-year time period. So let me look
that I'm
into
not
that, and
sure
I'll get
about.
back to you on that one.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Floyd, you had something to add?
Yeah, just on that same thing on family petition, I thought that once it passed through the planning and zoning and everything, is that they had to actually go document in the courthouse. You know, that all had to be documented before it was actually legal anyway. So,
I just want to
I
follow
don't know,
up
I
on
don't know if the safeguards are working or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I want to make sure.
Ms. Terry, we'll
I
get
don't
that
really
worked
know
out through,
myself.
planning and zoning.
Bill, I forgot to ask you about, I sent you an email last week about the drainage on Highway 74 going toward the bluff and the fact that we have some issues there. Did you receive that and has it been passed along?
Yes, it has, and we went and looked at it, and everything, basically along the road, and some issues going, outfalls going away from the road. And we're trying to get some information from the state to see if we can get some help on it, but the bottom line is, if after we wait a little bit longer, we're gonna have to do the work ourselves on it and clean it up. But it's not a major issue.
Right.
Just some cleaning that has to be done through there.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't know if you had, I know with all the new responsibilities
Right.
that you have, I didn't receive an email back, so I wasn't even sure it had been passed.
Well, I'm
along.
waiting to see what the state responds to. A lot of it has to be done on the road itself, along the road.
Thank you very much.
All right, before general business, Parish President?
I don't know if this is for you, Bill, or Mike, but where does like this guy doing this simple subdivision, stormwater regulations, does that come into play until after the subdivision is,
Really, you do a simple subdivision or a family petition, they're not responsible to give any kind of drainage reports or drainage studies on it.
we need to look at
Pretty
that.
wide open.
We need to look at that, definitely.
questions. Anything else while we
I want to
finishing
clear
up?
that up. That's a simple subdivision of land, okay? It's how it's stated.
On yours, but then we have, yeah, a simple
It's family
subdivision.
petition, but
Right.
it's how it's stated as a simple
Simple
subdivision of
subdivision.
land.
Right.
And Lance and them's been up against that thing. Maybe you can work with them on that.
Past President, you had anything else before we get into general business?
No, we've been working on different, Bill has been tasked to put DPW and major drainage together, and that's really been taking a lot of his time. We're about to do a contract or a part-time guy that's going to help us put some things together, and we will let you know as soon as we do it, and what we're going to be doing. Be a lot of good things for complaints and things like that to make it work smoother. But Bill's really been working to put everything together right now. So as soon as that's done, we're going to try to get it smoothed out. We will get it smoothed out.
Good deal. And just a lot of things that are really going on is really not, the public really can't see what, we kind of fall off back in areas where you can't really see it, so if you don't mind, on the next meeting, let's try to bring some stuff in where we can get it out to, everyone see what's going on with, levee systems and everything that we're doing. Only thing I have, Bill, I know we sent that, George Hudson, stuff off to George Hudson with where, did you hear anything yet?
Nothing yet. I'm gonna get with George later this week and
Okay.
try to have a sit down and go through the issues. The likelihood, I mean, we're hoping to get some kind of alternate that would be sensible, but it looks like we're going back to the same old thing of trying to add to the weir. It's about the only thing you can do, and which is a heavy expense, I guess. And
Very heavy.
the cost share of doing that would be the biggest issue now. How are we going to separate the cost share? So we're going to wait and try to get some more information, but again, that's what it's leaning toward.
Yeah, I'm getting a few calls from the boat clubs and different
yeah.
things, and everyone's wanting to know what's going on.
And you still got the issue of downstream, Old Amite River is silting in pretty good. It's really starting to show right now, and so we get concerns down that way too. We're looking around probably around 8 million, and again, the issue of how we're going to cost share is probably the next thing we're going to have to handle.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to general business. Authorization to construct bulkhead, number 7, Bill.
Yeah, there's authorization to construct a bulkhead on Bayou North Seas at Larry Molaire property to correct erosion problems. That's been a troubled area for over 10 years.
Yeah, I believe that's on Church Point, not by.
I mean, Church Point, I'm sorry.
I know it's a typo on.
Yeah, on Church Point.
It'll be a long
Yeah, Molaire, but it's Bayou North Seas, it's on Bayou North Seas. Canal.
Yeah.
On Church Point Road, Bayou North Seas Canal at Church Point.
Yeah.
I mean, at Larry Molaire property. It's been eroding for years. We tried to secure it with riprap. It keeps going in. It's taking the man's property. So what we propose is go in there and build a light bulkhead to protect the toe and pay for all the material and labor ourselves.
All right, moved by Mr. Cloyd, second by Mr. Bill Dawson. Any opposition, any questions?
Quick note on that, that this is one of several places where you have a bridge, and depending on where the water's flowing, that you have some issues, and depending on the shape of the land, but this bill's correct. That's been a problem for a long time.
Long time coming.
And I'm all for that.
Any opposition? None, motion passed. Move on to number 8, authorization to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement. Bill?
Yes, sir. This is another bulkhead, but in this case, the owners is willing to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement where they'll pay for the labor. We provide material for the bulkhead on Anderson Canal. That's been another sore subject ever since we went through there and did dredging as part of the original Marvin Borough construction project. A lot of erosion. And
Moved by Mr. Todd, second by Mr. Johnny. Question, Mr. Bill.
Bill, on this cooperative endeavor agreement, I presume, is that one where we don't take the responsibility? Or?
exactly. After it's constructed, they assume the responsibility
Okay, thank you.
for maintenance.
Any opposition to the motion? Not, motion passed. And number 9, authorization to amend funding agreement. Mr. Rue.
Yeah, we're asking for authorization to amend the funding agreement between East Ascension Drainage District and USGS for addition of stream gauging downstream of Marvinboro Pump Station. What this is they're gonna add, we're gonna have to build a platform for it, but they're gonna add a stream gauging, which is it'll show the flow of the water coming out of Marvinboro Pump Station. We need this to understand exactly how much flow is going through it before we start our pumping operation. It makes little sense if you get 5,000-6,000 cubic feet per second going through. It's no sense in trying to block it off and pump 4,000 or 5,000 cubic feet per second. So we need this gauge to determine when we start our pumping operations.
Go ahead, Mr. Bill.
Bill, I mean, I don't have any problem
Yeah.
with measuring the flow, but on the money part of this, I see, is this correct? So our portion increases $12,840, but the Corps' portion, aren't we splitting some of these costs with the?
Well, this is the USGS.
I mean, USGS.
Right, this USGS, and the total cost is $94,000, and we're gonna spend the USGS is 31,000. Ascension Parish is 62,700.
What is this
to install.
$12,800 increase?
That is the annual increase in costs for maintenance, or USGS maintains it and monitors it, and we just collect they collect the data, we get it over our website. So the initial cost.
This is not our increase, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, like I said, the increase per year, maintenance cost is $12,000
So it's
increase.
62,000 plus 12,800 for maintenance.
62,000 is a one-time cost, and then your $12,840 is a yearly increase for the maintenance. And we pay that, I think it's over $100,000 a year for all our gauges to be maintained by USGS.
Now, will those gauges transmit?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean,
You'll see it on the website
Okay.
when you go to see your levels, they'll have that on there too.
So, real quick, one of the discussions we had several years ago about this is that the USGS is responsible for the information that's being put out.
Right.
Okay.
That's one of the things,
So they take
that is a plus,
responsibility for
certified
the
information.
accuracy of it.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Mr. Sadler.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill, this is sort of a follow-up on Councilman Dawson's queries. It looks like we're paying the lion's share, approximately 2/3 of this cooperative endeavor agreement with the USGS.
Yeah.
And they're paying the other third. It says that we will allow them to then publish the results from their stations when they collect this data and all. But I assume, if we're paying the lion's share, that we're going to get a whole lot more out of it than just these values that they publish, right?
Well, we use it for our operations. They just use it to collect data.
And it's critical. I want the public to
Yes.
know that if we don't have this data, we've got problems operating.
It is, and at the same time, again, they're using it for the overall data collection for use by other agencies during flooding situations and analysis of flooding situations and stuff like this. We're using it for operational purposes.
And the other point, it's for 1 year. And so if they're
No,
gonna be-
it's yearly. It's gonna be every year after this,
The 12,000.
12 grand.
right, per year
Okay, but
for maintenance of the site.
62 is one time.
It's a one-time setup.
the one-time payment, okay, now I got it,
Right.
is, okay.
It's for the equipment, to buy the equipment and help, our portion of buying it, setting it up, and
Right.
get it functioning.
Right.
And then it's the maintenance of it, which is, basically they're guaranteeing the monitoring of it, and they're gonna put it on their website. We get it when we get on the same site as we get our, elevations and stuff like this.
Okay, very fine, thank you.
And it may come a time when it enters in to be good to check the efficiency of our station too.
Absolutely. I mean, you can
Because-
directly see what exactly each pump is putting out.
Because we've had, when we do improvements and stuff like that, and there's some estimated and engineered numbers. But if we got some exact numbers going through an open gate versus a 3 pumps on. you know.
Right. And this is a dual purpose. It shows the flow in or out. So we can gauge on a heavy north, east, southeast wind blowing under certain conditions. We can get at high tide, we can gauge the amount of flow coming in, and we do a little bit better prediction of shutting down the gates and stuff like this. Again, we're trying to get to a situation where we can write everything down and say, be precise on how we operate the pumping station. So it's not so much of a from memory, but it's something definite data that we use to shut down and start pumping and stuff like this.
I mean, we've seen in, in Dempsey and I in the last couple of years, is topographic change and different things downstream from us that we're constantly being questioned about. We got the biggest pumps on the river. That's the bottom line, so having good numbers to go with always helps.
That's it.
Mr. Johnson?
Bill, I noticed that 12,840 is for the annual. Since we're in July already, now obviously not going to get it done before that. Are we going to prorate that for the rest of the year?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I'll make that
Okay.
motion.
And
Mr. Chairman.
it'll be present, when you see we become with our contract renewals at the end of the year, it'll be accounted for in our USGS contract. Prorated this year and then full-time next year.
Moved by Mr. Benny, second by Mr. Johnny. No further discussion. Motion passed. Well, that's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Mr. Johnny, adjourn, second by Mr. Clue. We adjourn.